I was overflowing with ecstatic joy. Salams, smiles, hugs, and laughter came from my family surrounding me. Warmth and love came from these faces I could not put names to. I could already envision the lush green trees my uncles would climb for the taste of the rich coconut water from the stories my mother told me of. I could smell the sweet mouth-watering scent of fresh pitas my grandmother would make for my father when he was a young boy from a small village. I could almost hear the jingling of the bells from shining files and clinking from sparkling churis. We climbed into the minivan to leave the airport. At the very second we drive onto the road, time seemed to slow down. My heart plummeted. Bodies were crowded everywhere. White clouded eyes, missing and yellow teeth, deformed limbs, dirty rags for clothes. Children, young enough to be my little sister, elders, old enough to be my grandparents, and 13-year-old girls who could have been me. This was my first experience of ever seeing such extreme levels of poverty with my very own eyes in Bangladesh 2016, a definite turning point in my life. I had never imagined how different it would be to witness the atrocity myself. 2 words that haunt me: don't look. I was told this when I could not rip my eyes away from the extreme poverty shocking me. With tears, I struggled to hold back. Well, I looked, simply closing my eyes, would only close my eyes to the sight, but would never close my mind to the reality surrounding me. Instead, this trip opened my eyes wider to all the great injustices of our world. I have 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 feet, a mouth, a nose, 2 ears. My body is healthy. All of my body systems function properly. Already, I have enough blessings, and so much more than too many others. Even more, I was born in America, the land of opportunities. I have the opportunity to go to an amazing school every day, have 3 nutritious meals, and a safe place to go back to once the day ends. There are millions of individuals who can relate to all of this, probably including some of you in this very room. Those millions and I are privileged. We must acknowledge the privilege we are lucky enough to have. There are billions who are not granted the immunity from global and local issues and conflict. We do not fear about when we go to sleep. Our hearts do not clench every time we hear a loud noise. Wonder if it is a bomb or an airstrike. How many humans will be deprived today of their futures? We have a safe place to go back to once the day ends. A place to call home. And so I wonder, and I wonder if others wonder too, do you ever just think about life and how unfair it is? Why am I so privileged and leading the perfect life when others are suffering in war-torn countries, parents sending their children off to foreign places through ship, knowing they'll never see each other again, wondering if they'll survive in the hopes that they will, because the place they once called home is no longer safe? What makes me so special that I don't have to worry about getting burned, hanged, or massacred by corrupt governments and cruel regimes when there are hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians who have that inhumane fate? Because in the end, are we not all the same? Were we not all created equal as human beings? It is so frustrating and so maddening that all I can do is educate others, speak out, and donate, while all these lives are still suffering in silence. But I hope I make at least one person's life a little less dim. The least I can ask for is for others to open their eyes to these startling realities around us and take action. How, just how, can one be so cruel to turn a blind eye to the poor victims' sufferings? That is as cruel as the ones inflicting the real pain. Our silence hurts the oppressed and helps the oppressor. We must always take a side and act on it. When we hear of all the data and the statistics of all the atrocities in the world, such as 1,389 deaths and 2,460 injuries from gun violence in America in just the first 37 days of 2019, or how up to 500,000 Syrian civilians were killed in the civil war so far, or how approximately 15 million adolescent teenage girls are experiencing sexual assault globally, it is not enough to simply feel a passing of feelings and emotions, but sense the moral obligation we have to act. Our age does not limit our activism. And we do not have the time to delay our actions when so many are suffering. Our generation, we the young people, have so much potential when we recognize all of our voices are equal and authentic. When we bring our voices together, I truly believe we can change the world. Alice Walker had written, "Look closely at the present you are constructing. It should look like the future you are dreaming." The only reason building the future we dream of seems difficult is not because we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult. We have the power to stay silent or to speak up. We have the power to let our leaders sit back or demand for justice. We have the power. My hope is we decide to use it soon because we do not have time to waste. Muhammad Najem, the 15-year-old who had documented the Eastern Ghouta massacre, had said, "We are killed by your silence. Your silence on things that matter speaks volumes. When these systems and countries have failed the people, all that is left is humanity." These recent times have been a roller coaster of reaching forward and being pushed down. There have been times of great lacks of disappointment and I know how hopeless we have felt these past few years. Yes, it is true, net neutrality was partially repealed, a Muslim ban was passed, hate crimes have been on the rise, and we asked ourselves, what comes next? We wondered, which groups of individuals will have their lives threatened tomorrow? At times, I asked myself, what does the tomorrow look like in a today that is so bleak? Not to mention the constant remembrance of Alan Kurdi in our hearts and minds, and all the children who were sentenced to the same fate by man. We can never forget the pictures of his cold, lifeless, little body washed up on shore in 2015. Or Amal Hussein, the 7-year-old girl who was the face of Yemen's malnutrition crisis and famine, who passed away on October 26th, just last year. When I heard the news, my heart shattered. She was one of the millions of lives overlooked as a cost of civil war, a humanitarian cost which should never have been paid. I know how tiring it is to be constantly devastated and suffocated with dread when we hear of all the evil and atrocities of the world. But I want to remind you, there's always a light, even if it seems so dim and so distant. No matter how hard it is to believe, the world is moving forward. We are rising together, and this forming of unity is why I am so full of hope. Did you know, in 2014, for the midterm elections in America, only about 800,000 voters voted. And in 2018, just in the end of last year, over 2,347,000 voters voted under the age of 30. If this doesn't make you swell with absolute anticipation for the future, and for progress in Generation Z, I don't know what will. We are rising together, and I'm so full of hope for the future in Generation Z. We are going to be making progress. As a young hero has put it, the young people will win. If this doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will. Thank you.